We have some breaking news within a new contract negotiation situation here with Leon Draisaitl as we get into the dog days of summer. We'll get right into that breakdown, but make sure to subscribe here to Oilers Digest as we just reached 1,300 subscribers. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and join the ride as we get into the rest of free agency and into the fall season. With the Olympics starting today, this video is brought to you by Reynolds.ca, who are proud supporters of Team Canada. While they've been supporting our national team defend their home court heading into the Olympics, they've also been helping thousands of Canadians find their home floor all across the country. Whether you're in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, Halifax, Mississauga, Edmonton, Victoria, and St. John's, from coast to coast, Reynolds.ca have a ton of options to find the perfect place and price for you. Their website is clean and easy to use, and you can pinpoint exactly on the map where you want to move, finding all the options in your area. Find your home court with Reynolds.ca and check out their website in the pinned comment down below or in the description down below. And once again, we'd like to thank Reynolds.ca for supporting the channel, Team Canada, and for helping you guys find the best rentals all across the country. Make sure to check them out. But without further ado, our first topic of the day, Draisaitl. Yes, there's been some news regarding Leon Draisaitl's ongoing contract negotiations regarding his extension. Of course, he is eligible to become a free agent next summer. And Bob Stauffer had this to say. On Wednesday's Oilers Now show, host Bob Stauffer quickly answered some questions from fans texting into the show in response to a text about someone saying that the Stan Bowman hiring will negatively impact the Draisaitl negotiations. Stauffer had this to say. He said, "It would not surprise me if Leon were to be signed to an extension early." Of course, Connor McDavid has his wedding this weekend, so of course we won't hear anything this weekend, or at least we shouldn't anyway. It should hopefully be early next week, into late next week. Who knows? It's all speculation at this point, but Bob Stauffer, he doesn't say anything without, there being some smoke to that fire, so I'm pretty excited to see what exactly goes on with Leon Draisaitl. Of course, Stan Bowman saying, "Leon is a star player. He's top priority for me." This is during the press conference, the introductory press conference with him and Jeff Jackson. He says, "I want Leon to be an Oiler for life. He's a fantastic player. I've enjoyed watching him play. I think what sets him and Connor apart from pretty much anyone else is in the game. That they're the rare breed that can elevate their game in the playoffs." Of course, Stan Bowman, the Chicago Blackhawks did play the Edmonton Oilers in the qualifying round in the playoff bubble in 2020, so Stan Bowman does see, he has had some, in-person experience regarding Connor McDavid and Draisaitl in the playoffs. Of course, it wasn't technically the playoffs, it was the qualifiers, but McDavid in Game 2 did have that hat trick, so he does have some experience of McDavid taking over a game by himself, not just, McDavid, but Draisaitl. As you can see in the past 3 playoff runs, Draisaitl has effectively become the league's best player in the playoffs. Yet to win the cup, but he turns it up when he absolutely has to, even if it's on one leg, as you saw in the 2022 run. Just phenomenal stuff. And then lastly here, when it came to what kind of term you might see there, last week NHL insider David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period hinted that Oilers star forward Leon Draisaitl, of course, might secure a contract extension sooner rather than later. He was on the Hello podcast discussing the potential contract. He suggested that negotiations could lead to a short-term deal resembling, the Auston Matthews style extension, possibly ranging from 3 to 5 years rather than a full 8 term. With the quote being, "They're going to continue their discussions with respect to an extension unless something has changed. Since, I guess, the start of the playoffs, it's more likely to see an Auston Matthews-esque type extension, 4 or 5 year deal, or anywhere between a 3 to 5 year extension versus a full 8, said Pagnotta. And of course, most stars are, trying to take, the lesser term to, walk themselves to, one more last 8-year big deal before retirement. With Matthews, that's the case. With Draisaitl, that might be the case too, but of course, the main priority for Bowman and Jackson when it comes to extensions is they probably want to get him on that 8-year deal. Now, the money, most insiders, analysts have predicted that Draisaitl, at the very minimum, will get at least 12 to 12.5 million. Might get more, might get less. Of course, his agent Yuri Poner said that he's playing up to 30% more than his current contract, and he's at $8.5 million, and 30% that pushes you to roughly above $11 million. But to get him at $11 million would be a steal. But realistically, the numbers start at 12. But that's really all there is for the Draisaitl extension talk, the news. So let's get right into the other news today. Yeah, Cody Ceci and Paul Coffey. That sort of connection. There was an interview with Paul Coffey regarding his return to the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, took a test drive and became the Edmonton Oilers defensive coach when Kris Knoblauch was hired last November. Will likely give it another whirl after talking things over with CEO Jeff Jackson this week. Of course, Coffey was kind of reluctant into getting into that defensive coaching role. Of course, Daryl Cates, the owners, kind of pushed him into it, but we should see the same bench next year when it comes to Kris Knoblauch, Coffey, Glenn Gulutzan, and Mark Stewart, who are the associate and assistant coaches. Gulutzan runs the power play. Mark Stewart ran that tremendous penalty kill that you saw during the playoffs. So it's good to see the same bench return with almost pretty much the same lineup, minus guys like, Ryan McLeod and Warren Foegele. Of course, with Paul Coffey, whatever he says, you kind of have to take seriously. Just look at the stats. They're second highest scoring defenseman of all time. So whatever he says kind of goes. And when it came to, coaching the Oilers defense, he says when crunch time comes in a game where one guy maybe isn't playing so well, a player can't move up because he hasn't been playing enough. I like competition, said Coffey, who also changed up his pairings with the only tandem at state together being Evan Bouchard and Matthias Ekholm. Following it up there, I remember changing up the partners after a streak ended with 16 straight wins in Vegas in January there. It says everybody's up in arms. Told the guys, if you're not comfortable with this, come and talk to me. He says this is why coaching in the NHL is fun. I think guys should challenge each other. I can't stand things staying the same. You get bored. I'm interested in seeing how Cody Ceci looks with a guy like Brett Kulak or Vinny Desharnais looks with Darnell Nurse with Coffey's quote there. And he's kind of switching it up. Paul Coffey. He's a man of few words. Of course, he in practices you can see him talking to the defense, but just trying to get him to gel all together. And I think after he took over as the defensive coach there, you started to see the defense play a little more calm, a little more puck possessed there. Just a complete turnaround from the Jay Woodcroft era with his coaching there. The defense was all over the place. And with Dave Manson, I was trying to remember the name of the defensive coach under Jay Woodcroft. It was Dave Manson. You can see the night and day difference between Dave Manson and Paul Coffey there when it comes to running a defense. And it's good to see Coffey back for another year. And when it comes to Cody Ceci, he's often a scapegoat for fans and journalists, but in the locker room, he's incredibly well liked. Of course, he's very close with guys like McDavid and Draisaitl, and especially Darnell Nurse. And Elliot Friedman said they were considering subtractions at the past NHL trade deadline, but Friedman at the time said, I think players had indicated they preferred to keep Ceci around. And then Coffey adding on here says, he has all the time in the world for Cody Ceci. He trusts me. I trust him. You saw that pass in Game 7. He wouldn't have made that play before, but he had the confidence to do that. Same with shooting the puck. You saw that in the Vancouver series. Of course, he had that goal in Game 1 there and also in Game 7. He said these guys are NHL players, the best of the best. They're here for a reason. And Cody Ceci, he does get a lot of criticism from Oiler fans. He's a fantastic, defending in his own zone there. But when it comes to, all the other facets of being a defenseman, that's when, it could use some work. And he's been a 10-plus year veteran in the NHL, so we kind of know what he is at this point. So when it comes to subtractions, Cody Ceci is probably the main guy going out this year. As you can see there with all the different pairings that Ceci had this year, there wasn't one that particularly stuck out there. These are the regular season numbers. You can see there Ceci and Nurse kind of faltered mostly throughout the season there, but they were held together by pairs like Kulak and Desharnais and Bouchard or Ekholm and Bouchard. So you got to try something different with, Ceci and Nurse. You can try running, Ceci and Kulak for the rest of the regular season. Next year, keep those guys together and maybe try like a Nurse and Broberg type situation. But when it comes to the Oilers cap space, they probably don't have a lot of room to keep a guy like Cody Ceci. As you can see, they're almost $300 million deep before they got to get something going to hit the cap floor at the start of the season. Cody Ceci, he's probably the main cap casualty heading into training camp in September. If they want to get a Draisaitl extension done, they got to make some room. So let me down in the comments what you think. Just your overall thoughts on the Oilers at this time. When it comes to, the GM hiring or the Draisaitl extensions, if you think that'll sort of impact the Draisaitl extension. But have yourselves a great weekend. Let me know down in the comments. I'm Matt. Take care.